You're not too tired, are you, Andy?
Oh, no, I slept on the plane.
Good, then that means we can start the Godfather Minute.
My name is Alex Robinson.
And I'm Andy Robinson.
And together we're the Godfather
Godfather
Minute.
Minute.
This is a podcast. Now, okay, let me explain this. It's kind of complicated. We take a minute of the movie.
Uh-huh.
And we talk about that minute for usually racks up being like 20 minutes or so, 25
about
minutes.
20 minutes
It's not,
or
the
so.
show is not a minute long. Mm-hmm. So I just want to make that clear. You understand that, right?
I understand that.
Okay, good. Yeah, so today we're discussing minuto numero 35.
Oh, wow. I'm so proud that you tried to do it on your own.
Yeah.
Really, yeah. That's the sign that you're... What is the little bird? They push the bird off the wing.
nest.
Yeah, you're very close. 30.
35.
Cinque.
Minuto numero I can't remember.
30.
35.
Cinque.
35.
That's it.
The bounty hunter. 35.
Is that a bounty hunter?
Every weird sounding thing you turn
Oh,
into
you really
a
can. That's right.
bounty hunter in Star Wars.
And any number can sound like a stormtrooper ID number.
Yeah,
right?
or a robot, yeah.
Yeah.
Robot. So anyway, so we're talking about minute 35 of The Godfather. Mm-hmm. Some great stuff coming up here. If you recall, last week it ended on a real cliffhanger with we saw Woltz's bed all covered in blood, and now
We're not sure it's blood because we don't know what
it could have been ketchup, red wine, jelly, perhaps.
strawberry marmalade that he prepared in his rolling estate.
Totally. It could be any of those things, but in this minute we find out the first thing we see in minute 35 is him pulling back the blanket, and we see the severed head of Khartoum. Who's going to put him at the stud?
No, not anymore.
You see, never know in life what things life's going to do. Would you say this is probably the most famous scene of the movie?
Yes. Yeah, I'm rating it 5 stars.
Oh, you're rating it 5
rating it
stars.
5
You haven't even
stars.
gotten to the...
And I'm going to drop the mic and I'm going to walk away.
What? Where are you going?
All right,
Come
I'll
back.
See you out.
Oh, man. I can say I did my own.
Countdown to cannoli.
Are we doing the cannoli countdown?
Sure, why not?
Take that cannoli. Don't upset Clemenza's wife. We're working on a countdown, counting down. Cannoli. You won't be seeing Paulie no more. How many minutes left? How many minutes left? We're doing the countdown. How many minutes left?
How many minutes left, Alex?
How many minutes left?
Well, for minute 35, I'm going to say it's 25 minutes.
So that would put us at minute 60, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're one off.
Oh, it was 61?
No, it happens in Paul. You don't see Paulie no more beginning minuto 59.
Minuto cinque.
I don't know how to say 50 yet. I haven't
Okay,
gotten
yeah.
there.
Wow, 22. We only have 24 more minutes.
24 more minutes.
Until we say goodbye to Paulie.
That's it. Does that mean that every scene we see Paulie before then, or he's referenced, that'll be bumped up a star in our ratings?
You think Paulie deserves a star for himself? Yeah, okay, I'll give Paulie an extra star. He's barely in it, so sure.
Just because we know he's going to be gone
Yeah.
and we've built up his demise?
Well, anyway, we'll save that. I was going to say
Okay.
that scene where they're driving around New York with Paulie in the car might not be the best. Well, we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, let's get back to the most famous scene in the whole movie: the horse's head cutting off.
I really think it's the most iconic. It's the most famous scene of the movie.
Yeah.
And one of the more iconic images in the Godfather trilogy.
Yes, exactly. When I was in college, I had to do an assignment where I don't remember exactly what the assignment was, but I had not seen The Godfather yet.
Whoa.
But I drew a picture of like a elf, like a fairy type elf, like a shoemaker type elf.
Mm-hmm.
And he was reacting with horror because there was a severed head of a unicorn in his bed.
Oh, funny.
Like it's, and I hadn't seen The Godfather at the time, so even though I knew that there was a horse,
Wow.
had
And so you drew that as just a parody of that.
Yeah, I drew a
scene
picture of
and
a fairy looking all like scared,
that's so
and so on.
That's great.
So there you go. Proves how famous it was.
And you may not have known it at the time, but the unicorn dying in the Elves universe is comparable to Khartoum dying in Woltz's universe because they're really one-of-a-kind beings.
Yeah.
Isn't there only one unicorn?
I don't know.
Or there was only one unicorn.
Yeah, now there's none unicorns. There had to be more than one. Are you
Why?
just saying it's a magical creature that lives on forever?
I don't know. I don't know much about unicorns, but I always heard that they are not common.
They're definitely very rare. But I don't know. There must be more than just the one, though, because if it dies, then that would be the end of it.
That'd be the end.
Anyway, we'll have to ask. Once they start the last unicorn minute, we'll ask them for their expert opinion.
Although this conversation makes me wonder, would the Don have sent a stronger message if he had a unicorn's head cut off in Woltz's bed?
That would be I guess it'd be very mixed signals. He'd be like, what is this?
Waltz starts screaming, no! What is this thing? Khartoum didn't have a horn.
I found a unicorn on my bed. Yeah. Anyway, we're already going back to Waltz.
Yeah, I ain't no wood elf.
I ain't no pixie. 17 seconds of Waltz screaming.
Whoa, did you clock it?
Well, we're watching it on the.
yeah.
When you do only a minute, it's pretty easy
man.
to.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because Francis Ford. So, do you want to talk about the behind the scenes stuff, or do you want to talk about the stuff in the book, or do we want to talk about the making of the scene first?
Let's talk about it all.
Okay.
Let's talk about it all. I can do so. I can start.
Well, let's start with the book then.
Okay. Well, let's start with the production notes. So, Alex, I've told you previously that I got my hands on Francis Ford Coppola's secret production notes.
Wow.
I'm going to try to come up with some music for that.
Okay.
What would be a good secret theme? Secret music theme. I hear a clock ticking, maybe?
Yeah, definitely like a tension, like someone sneaking into an office to try to steal, break into a safe or something.
Oh, a creaky door.
Yeah, totally.
Oh.
Dun, 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 dun.
So Coppola wrote in his production notes on the side of this part, he, referring to Woltz, screams out loud, and loud is in all caps and underlined 3 times. He doesn't write about the length of the scream, but
Oh, right.
yeah. So there's some interesting stuff that Puzo writes about in the book.
Okay.
So here we go. Puzo writes, it had the shape of a horse's head. Still groggy, Woltz reached and flicked on the night table lamp. The shock of what he saw made him physically ill. It seemed as if a great sledgehammer had struck him on the chest. His heartbeat jumped erratically and he became nauseous. His vomit spluttered on the thick bear rug.
Oh, they didn't do that part.
On the thick bear rug.
Yeah.
Even cooler.
So wait, the book is different than the movie because he didn't throw up in the movie.
The book is different than the movie.
Okay.
The book is different than the movie. The book is different than the movie. The book is different. The book is different. The book is different than the movie. Yeah.
Puzo also writes, Woltz was struck by a purely animal terror, and out of that terror he screamed for his servants.
Loud.
Loud! His maniacal raving alarmed the butler, who called Woltz's personal physician and his second in command at the studio, but Woltz regained his senses before they arrived.
Wait, so the butler heard screaming. Did the butler then go in the room, or did the butler just go, well, I better call the doctor? I don't know what's going on in there, but I better call a doctor.
It doesn't say the butler went into the room, but he just heard the screaming.
Figure that's nothing good.
Woltz screamed for his servants.
Yeah, but they didn't go in.
I guess they don't say it. His maniacal raving alarmed the butler. Maybe he did go in.
Yeah. But this could be the kind of thing that happens like once a week or something.
Yeah.
You know, he just wakes up screaming like, oh, I gotta get a sedative from the doctor.
Yeah. He wakes up screaming, I can't be made to look ridiculous. That's on another day. What else would he scream when waking up?
I ain't no band, no. I'm not a band leader. What
about, check him out. Check him out. Check him out.
Wait, the way we're sounding, almost sounds like he's waking up from a nightmare.
Yeah.
Like, no, heroin, marijuana, union troubles.
Of course, he's only screaming out stuff that we see in the movie.
Of course, yeah.
Acting lessons, dancing lessons, singing lessons.
You appreciate beauty, don't you, Tom? So the butler calls the doctor and the second in command
of the studio. Do you think the second in command is the guy that Woltz earlier had Hagen checked out? Remember he said, check him out.
I feel like that's probably more like Woltz's like personal assistant than I assume the second in command would have more important things to do than look up some Goomba thug. So
it'd be like Woltz's Hagen.
Yes, exactly. Right? Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Puzo continues to write. He had been profoundly shocked. What kind of man could destroy an animal worth $600,000 without a word of warning, without any negotiation to have the act, its order, countermanded? That's kind of strange that Walt, I mean, I know he's freaking out right now. He's not really thinking straight, but the thought that there had not been a counter offer.
Well, I guess in his world, like the
Waltz's world,
in the world of Woltz, in Waltz's world, Tom made an offer, and he's like, "Now get the hell out of here!" Now in Woltz's world, that probably means like, okay, they'll come back with a different counter offer, and they'll do something like that. So I'm sure to him, this is like, what? You went right to DEFCON 5 instead of like there being more negotiations.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. For by this time, Woltz had learned that the ruthlessness, the sheer disregard for any values implied a man who considered himself completely his own law, even his own God.
Oh, father.
He is the Godfather.
Yeah, I ain't no Godfather.
Yeah. A little more interesting detail. And a man who backed up this kind of will with the power and cunning that held his own stable security force of no account. So he's the stable security force that couldn't even hold him back. For by this time, Woltz had learned that the horse's body had obviously been heavily drugged before someone leisurely hacked the huge triangular head off with an axe.
Wow, with an axe.
Yeah. The men on night duty claimed that they had heard nothing. To Woltz, this seemed impossible. They could be made to talk. They had been bought off, and they could be made to tell who had done the buying.
Now, does the book say who did it?
No, they don't go into it.
Really?
Nope.
Because
I think they just leave that alone.
Isn't it Luca Brasi? Doesn't he send Luca Brasi to do it?
No, I think we just joked about that, didn't we?
In all the sources I've said Luca Brasi's the one. I
interesting.
think in that scene he says, "Oh, we're going to have Luca take care of it." I thought there was a scene.
Gosh, I don't remember that.
Where in that cut scene where he was talking about like, "Oh, does he forget about it and all that?" I think he's like, "Oh, I'm going to send Luca to go."
Oh, okay.
He's send Luca to go cut that horse's head off. But which is funny because it always just seems strange to imagine. I don't picture Luca being that kind of a sneaky and give a horse drugs, and he always just seemed much more just like raw power, like a guy who you just want to go in there and just kill
and get out.
That.
Yeah,
but
I can see him. I can't see him getting the prescription correct. The drugs like Don Corleone and morphine.
Or maybe like someone else said, "Oh, here, before you do it, give the horse these pills." You know what I mean? Like a doctor that. Surely they have a doctor on staff. The Godfather.
Oh, heck yeah. Of course, Luca got it confused, and he thought the doctor's telling him to take the drug. So he
fell asleep
in
the stable.
Out for 5 days in the stable because it was strong morphine.
And then he's like, "God, don't tell anybody about this." And he paid him off so they wouldn't.
Well, Luca is good with an axe.
As
Hagen will later report.
Yeah.
One more part about this.
Yeah, I have another question about that too.
Oh, okay. And then Puzo wrote how Now, Woltz is just blown away that like you said, Don Corleone would go to DEFCON 4 or 5. Puzo writes, there couldn't be any kind of world if people acted that way. It was insane. It was 10 times worse than communism.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a little dated there.
So like, because if this was if this was in Soviet Russia, there'd be 10 horses' heads in your. Oh no, wait, this is 10 times worse. So there'd be 1/10 of a horse.
1/10 of a horse. Yeah. Well, that's why it's worse.
There'd be like 30 pounds of horse meat just laying in the bed.
Well, that's why it's worse, because 1/10 of horse meat, you can't share that with a lot of people in a communist world. It's not a lot of meat to go around.
That's true. Well, so does it say where the horse's head is
In the bed?
in the book?
Far down at the foot of his bed was a familiar shape, and Woltz struggled up on his elbows to get a clearer look.
Because I think the horse is not supposed to be in the bed with him. I think it's supposed to be like at the foot of his bed on the floor.
Oh, really?
Well, because they say that Francis Ford Coppola kind of misinterpreted it and put the horse's head in the bed. Mm-hmm. But he also wanted the blood to be in the bed so that you weren't sure whether this was his blood or tomato sauce or the horse's head or
wine, more wine, Paulie.
Yeah, totally. Or maybe one of the servants. So
it definitely would have been different if he had gotten up and the bird singing.
He trips over it.
Well, he slips on the blood and his head lands face to face with Khartoum.
Like staring right eye to eye. Wow, that would be.
And then the camera and then you think it's Khartoum actually in the room.
Oh,
then
yeah.
The camera zooms out and you see it's just the head. Next to the bear's head on the bearskin rug.
That's true. Yeah, this is turning into like a Noah's Ark. Yeah. So Francis Ford Coppola didn't like the scene, and he wouldn't have included it.
Really?
But he felt like it was such a big part of the novel that he's like, people will be disappointed if it's not in there.
Is there any information about why he disapproved of the scene?
I think generally the violence, he didn't like it. I think he was trying to go for a more high-minded kind of like, it's all about the family drama and that kind of stuff, not about the more like lurid elements like the her giant vagina and the horse's head being cut off and all that kind of like more like guttery kind of stuff.
Oh, interesting.
So,
well, he seemed to strike the right balance.
Yeah,
in the course of the whole film, just enough.
They originally were going to use the fake horse's head.
They were going to use
they tried using just like a stuffed horse head.
Okay.
Obviously with like not like a toy horse head. But like a taxidermied head. But it just didn't look real, so like we got to get a real horse's head. So they contacted a pet food company.
What?
And said, they're like, well, we kill horses all the time, so if you want one of these heads. And so they
oh my God,
picked one that matched. A lot of people think there's a mistake because you can't see Khartoum's trademark white. If you remember in the scene, Khartoum has like a white thing on his forehead.
That's right, yeah.
And this horse doesn't seem to have it, but they think it's just because there's blood on it, so you can't really see it. Because I guess they picked one that had a white stripe on it to try to make it look like.
Wow, cool. So it was just this pet store, this local pet store?
What do you mean?
Or I'm sorry, the company that provided the horse's head?
Yeah, it was just like a company that makes dog food.
Yeah.
That they in New Jersey somewhere.
And so, why would they have horses? Because they use it in the dog food?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I'll read the.
It's crazy that a dog food company would have a $600,000 horse.
I bet Russian tsars never paid that much for dog food. Yeah, so this is what. A lot of people were, upset about this horse's head thing, and they, it's like that thing in movies where you can show 100 people getting killed, but if you show someone like kick a dog, that's it's more. So Francis Ford Coppola said there were many people killed in that movie, but everyone worries about the horse. It was the same on the set when the head arrived. It upset crew members who were animal lovers who like little doggies. What they didn't know is that we got the head from a pet food manufacturer who slaughters 200 horses a day just to feed those little doggies. So like the hypocrisy of that 200 horses a day.
Director, you and I live in the same hypocrisy, Senator.
He's like that to the dog food manufacturer. We're both part of the same rock. So I wonder if that was an accurate. First of all, do they still put horse meat? I guess they probably do.
They probably do, yeah.
Like you and I, we both have pets, but we get like the high end. Like
You get the high end
This
stuff.
is all like farm raised, organic.
Oh, yeah.
Cruelty free stuff.
Yeah,
and then
it's like
stuff
soy chicken.
Yeah, soy chicken.
It's like soy horse.
Soy horse. Yeah. Yeah, so
That's
they got it
crazy.
from a pet food company, and Caro syrup with food coloring is how they did the blood. And
Good old Caro syrup and food coloring.
yeah, and so they said that the scene took 4 hours to shoot,
Wow.
and so by the end, the whole thing was just like soaked in that
Oh,
Caro
yeah.
syrup. And the guy who played Woltz was like, "Oh, I can still see it."
Oh, really? Afterwards?
Yeah,
it was all-
I guess he had to spend 4 hours in the bed with this severed
man.
horse head.
He's still washing it out.
Yeah, that hot set. That can't be. That can't be. Yeah. All the dogs are all the door. All they want to come in.
Do you think Woltz, the character, for several weeks had like the blood stains on in his house and sheets and on his on that
Well, because you
dopey
figure that
blue
probably
suit?
soaked through to like the mattress
Yeah,
too. So
yeah,
I'm
he'd
sure
probably
his
get rid of
mattress. Although with Woltz, he probably had like rubber sheets on under there. He's
Oh,
getting into some nasty stuff.
He's getting old.
So that's the horse bit.
Interesting. I have a little bit more about the horse.
Okay.
In the book, Khartoum, as we talked about, I think it was the last minute. So back in New York, Hagen is in his office and he gets a call and he's expecting it to be Woltz, but it's Buonasera who thanks him for doing the job.
right,
yeah. But then later,
Buonasera is the one who provided the horse head. Wait, that doesn't make any sense.
well, maybe that's one of the favors that Hagen asked him. Oh, I need you to dispose of the body.
Oh,
We have the head.
They ship it all the way back from Hollywood to New York.
Luke is trying to ride it back or like tug it back.
Or they probably did. They probably went to Hollywood, brought the horse back.
Oh yeah,
Cut the head off there, and then just brought the head back to
Yeah,
Hollywood.
much easier.
That's much more easy.
yeah, because you can lead a horse to New York, but not it, and lead its head back home.
That's that old saying.
Something like that. Puzo writes. So Hagen gets another call. Hagen worked quickly and efficiently for the next 3 hours, consolidating earning reports from the Don's real estate company, his olive oil importing business, and his construction firm. None of them were doing well, but with the war over, they should all become rich producers. He had almost forgotten the Johnny Fontaine problem when his secretary told him California's calling. He felt a little thrill of anticipation as he picked up the phone and said, "Hagen here." The voice that came over the phone was unrecognizable with hate and passion. "You fucking bastard," Woltz screamed. "I'll have you all in jail for 100 years. I'll spend every penny I have to get you. I'll get that Johnny Fontaine's balls cut off. Do you hear me, you guinea fuck?"
Wow.
Hagen said kindly, "I'm German-Irish."
Also, they just took the same stuff and put it.
Yeah, that's his go-to line.
Yeah,
I
or
guess.
does he just repeat the same
I
thing?
think he repeated it.
Really?
I think that's his go-to line. I think when he gets nervous or excited, that's what he says. There was a long pause and then a click of the phone being hung up. Hagen smiled. Not once had Woltz uttered a threat against Don Corleone himself. Genius had its rewards.
Wait, who's the genius in that?
Don Corleone.
The Don Corleone.
Yeah, for having pulled it. And then the last bit about the horse, because I know we want to move on to something else.
It's the most famous scene.
It is. Woltz so it's back in California. Woltz let the doctor give him a very mild sedation. And then the servants and the doctor were sworn to secrecy on pain of incurring the studio's and Woltz's undying enmity. Word was given to the press that the racehorse Khartoum had died of an illness contracted during his shipment from England. Orders were given to bury the remains in a secret place on the estate.
Oh man, you gotta bury a horse? That'd take forever to dig that
I know.
hole.
Well, you don't have the head, so it takes a little less longer.
Oh, you don't think they buried the head too? What do they do with the head? Mount it on the wall? That was my old horse Khartoum.
I guess you'd bury it all together. Oh, that's sad.
So wait, it's more sad that his head was buried too?
No, that's just the whole thing. I'm really just reflecting on the whole thing. It's sad. Just all for Johnny Fontaine.
Yeah. Well, it's Waltz's fault. He's the one who really made this happen.
Yeah.
So if you just given him the part,
You should
he
just
would
given
be
him the
there
part.
earning millions, and Khartoum would be screwing his way up and down the East Coast.
Little did he know it, by giving Johnny the part, he put Johnny out the stud. And Coppola wrote in his production notes next to this part where Woltz comes up with this plan to bury him and make up this story that he can't afford to look ridiculous.
Oh,
So
that's nice.
He references that again.
Oh, I was trying to think if there are other scenes, other parodies of this scene.
Oh, there has to have been, right?
Yeah, I'm sure there are. The only one that springs to mind is they did one on The Simpsons where Lisa got a pony, and she wakes up because the pony's laying in her bed. And first she's like, ah, but then the horse, then it's actually alive because she's riding it around. But they use that same like slow pan in.
Cool.
So I'm trying to think of any other ones. Though.
There was one I saw years ago. This is probably 40 years ago when I saw a drawing that someone had made in their house. There was a pixie wood elf, and there was a unicorn in the bed.
Was it one of the best drawings you've ever seen?
It was okay.
Oh, it sounds great.
It seemed like someone early on in their career, but it was very creative. I'm sure it's been parodied. Maybe that, let's look that up for the bonus content.
Totally. Oh, we asked, and
we
we're
gonna-
not answering yet. We'll wait till we answer to do that one. You know what we also got to do for a bonus content sometimes?
What's that?
This will require a little bit more planning on our part. Is we have to start watching like parodies of Godfather movies.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's that one Mafia
Yeah.
exclamation
It's funny.
point. There's one
The Freshman.
The Freshman.
Yeah.
And there's one with it's almost like Mafia, but it's like the son of a
Pritzi's Honor is...
No, this one's more like a Zucker Brothers airplane type parody.
Oh, gosh.
Anyway, so these are the kind of things we'll have to start
Definitely.
start looking up. If you know of any good parodies we should watch, drop us an email, godfatherminute@gmail.com.
gmail.com.
And you can actually you can use that to contact us about anything, not
Yeah.
just the Yeah. So okay.
Oh, a great scene.
Yeah, anything else about the horse? I'm sure it'll come back up again.
Yeah.
We're gonna miss Jack Woltz though.
And
Definitely.
Khartoum, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the last we see of Woltz.
And Khartoum,
Yeah.
So So then we have it fades from Jack Woltz going to the Don looking cool as a cucumber, and then he even like shrugs his eyebrows like, well, they could have bargained. That's what happens. Which I really love that.
I made him an offer.
That shrug. Oh well.
I made him an offer and he refused.
Yeah. And they also bet against. They bet in the next race that Khartoum was going to race in, but he wasn't going to race because they were just going to put him out to studs.
Yeah.
All right then. So yeah, now we have the conversation between the Don and his son and his concierge, his heir apparent and his concierge.
Yep.
Fredo not invited to the meeting.
No. Fredo not there. Michael
Well, you
not
assume
there,
Michael
not
wouldn't be there
interested.
because
Yeah.
he's not, at this point, he's not involved. But Fredo, no.
Stepped over. Those are in Tom's notes.
Yeah.
He's referring to his notes when he's talking to Sonny and the Godfather. The top one is Fredo, not invited, stepped over.
A stamp that says stepped over.
You've been stepped over. I'm going to work on that sound effect.
Wait, is this one of those things that like Tom has with like a sound that has like one of those things where you press a button?
It's a
like,
button.
you suck, stepped over.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to...
Nightclub.
Well, I think I'm going to have it so it goes, you've been stepped over. And then you hear, I'm smart. Like fading out in the background.
So they sit down and Tom says he just got in from the plane. And
He slept on the plane. He's not tired.
Yeah, and so he has the Sollozzo files, which he takes out of his briefcase. And I'm surprised that he would have all this written down.
Well, there's a little bit about that in the book.
Wait a minute.
It's true. Puzo wrote, Hagens' notes were, quote, in no way incriminating, merely cryptic reminders to make sure he touched on every important detail, end quote.
I wrote down if he was using codes in it, like, let's call him the Turk instead of Sollozzo in these papers and so on.
Maybe what you and I should do, Alex, is write down some code icons and symbols that basically a reproduction of Tom's notes for this meeting and what the codes would look like. That'd be a cool T-shirt design. There'd be a knife with a big check mark next to it.
So it's all like doodles that he did like while he's in a meeting. Okay, yeah.
No, he did it on the plane.
Yeah, yeah. They don't have movies or anything like that.
It's on the napkin from the American
the barf
Airlines.
bag. He writes those notes on the back of the barf bag. But it did remind me that we have to talk more about the Godfather newspaper idea.
Oh, it's so funny. Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah. So he starts. Tom starts reading through his notes, and the first thing he says, is he's the Turk. He calls him the Turk. They call him the Turk, and he's a top narcotics man, and he's very good with a knife. That's one of the first things Tom says is he's very good with a knife.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
What do you think that's like? Is it just because it's an old Sicilian thing that the first thing you have to establish is that the person is a fighter?
It might be, yeah.
So how would if they were talking about the Don, what would they say about him? Would they be like,
Oh gosh,
his
Well, we
patented
know
move
that-
is to wrap a gun in a towel and shoot somebody?
he's prone to do
Because
that.
that's be something that he has to personally do. You know what I mean? It's not like
So this would be like Barzini's. Oh no, this is Sollozzo's consigliere filling him in on Don Corleone.
yeah.
He's like, he's good with.
it's called the Don. He's great with a cake.
He's great with a cake. He's great with a homemade silencer.
Yeah, totally.
We know. Well, he ain't no band leader.
Wait, he's not a band leader? Or
That's what Sollozzo's consigliere would tell Sollozzo about
that-
Don Corleone.
that Don Corleone.
Yeah,
is a family
he's
man.
not a pushover.
You know who they can't.
good.
You know who they don't say that about is Frankie Five Angels. Because they're like, he's
do you
not a
mean?
band leader. Oh wait, he does lead the band very briefly in that in the scene.
It's all crossed off on the list.
That's how you know it's like an omen that he leads the band. He knows
that you can get to him.
something bad's gonna happen.
That's great. Everyone thinks it's when you see an orange, someone's going to die. That's not it. It's all
too
that goes back to the band leader. Well, Puzo wrote in the book about the knife thing. It's just a little detail. On page 71, Puzo wrote, he's very quick with a knife, or was when he was young, end quote. So it makes me wonder how updated his information is.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Or has he just not had to use a knife recently? Maybe it's updated information.
Well,
but
he did spend 2 times in prison,
Yeah.
so he'd think he would have to be a good fighter.
Yeah. They called him a Turk because he spent a lot of time in Turkey, and he may have a Turkish wife and kids.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's covered in this time, but he mentions that doesn't Tom say he gets the poppies in Turkey,
Yeah.
and then processes them in Sicily. So he must spend a lot of time in Turkey for his work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does the minute go into all this? I think it does. It doesn't get very far with the Sollozzo background.
Yeah, no, more. There's much more about next week's minute. But here's something I noticed for the first time that you might not notice it I didn't notice it until watching it minute by minute when they're describing Sollozzo, and that he's very good with a knife, but only in matters of business with some sort of reasonable complaint.
Yeah.
While he's saying that, they cut to the exterior. You see the car, you see the Turk getting out, and getting out.
Yeah.
And right when he's saying that line about reasonable complaint, you see there's 2 kids are walking down the street, and then another kid jumps out and pushes one of the kids down, and then runs away.
Yeah, I saw that too.
And that's basically like what happens to the Don almost in that exact spot. It's like he gets ambushed, and right when he's saying, unless he has a reasonable complaint. So the whole reason Sollozzo does this is because he has the complaint about the not wanting to do business. So you're kind of seeing like a little foreshadowing there in that moment. I wonder if stuff like that is intentional or not. I mean, watching it here, I was like, that seems like such a cool little detail that you don't notice it until you're watching it. Like that kid pushes another kid down and then runs away. And I just thought that was a cool little...
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I noticed that
bit.
too, but I hadn't thought of the significance of it.
Yeah, so...
And the one kid falls down, but gets back up.
right, and the other
and
kid
chases
is...
him.
the other kid, is just... The other kid's Fredo. Like, Mama! The other kid is Fredo. Yeah, and so the minute ends with a mysterious figure climbing the stairs. Mm-hmm. We assume is the Turk, but who knows? Maybe it's Woltz back for revenge.
It could be.
Carrying the horse's head. Did you do this? Throws it on the ground. So then the minute ends with the Turk climbing the stairs. It's funny that both last week's minute ended on a cliffhanger, and this week's also ends on
all within a minute.
Yeah, so
it's amazing the segue.
So yeah, we'll have more about we'll discuss more about the Tom Hagens notes about the Turk next week. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter at The Godfather Minute. We mostly post about the show, but we'll occasionally share fun stuff there. Mm-hmm. And if you go to godfatherminute.com, you can find a link to buy either of our 2 T-shirts, including one with our friend Khartoum on it in his last he's immortalized on cloth forever.
It's a great design.
Well, thank you. Okay, then. I guess so we're going to reconvene for the bonus content, but for the rest of you,
leave the gun and take the cannoli.